I've been unwell for 3 months now and I'm able to do very, very little in the garden. I've just been out on the longest walk that I've done since mid-July and come back to this front bed under the kitchen window, which is absolutely full of colour. These nasturtiums are just glowing, and I can eat those in salads. And then there's the cerinthe and the marigold still blooming in early October, and a crane fly just tucked in under this leaf. There are still roses on the rose arch, although this garden's looking very autumnal now. The roses have more or less finished, but there'll still be one or two, probably going well into November. Little pink bud of Gertrude Jekyll there. There she is. Almost too bright to be filmed, really. It's glowing. Underneath the roses is this lovely variegated Jacob's ladder, which during the summer had tall spikes of blue flowers. And then next to it, amongst all the weeds, is my little row of alyssum grown from seed, which smells like honey. Really valuable nectar resource at this time of year. Pond's now gone brown, looking a bit sad and sorry for itself. So I focus instead on all these amazing honeysuckle berries, which I can see from the living room window. And down at ground level, there's pink nerine. It has strap-shaped leaves earlier in the summer, which all disappear completely. And you get nothing but these spikes of pink when the weather's gone cold and wet. And amongst the dead foliage of the pond, tiny little lily pads. Now that all the plums have gone, that branch has popped up a good 45 degrees. It was absolutely horizontal with the weight of the fruit in the summer. But it's actually changed the whole shape of the tree now. It hasn't gone back to the vertical it was this time last year. It'll keep that whole tree lower where I can reach the fruit. Natural pruning, I suppose. Viburnum still has lots of glossy leaves, some of them going a rich yellow colour. And these are the flower buds, which will come out when it's really cold in late winter, early spring. Little signs of hope, even as we move into later autumn. Under the plum tree there are still wild geraniums, pulmonaria leaves, these shiny, beautiful leaves. And then the hellebores, which again will have leaves when it's really cold at the beginning of next year. That's something to look forward to. It's nice to be able to get back down to ground level. Here are the incredible leaves of the hardy cyclamen. Beautiful shields. There's little pink flowers that always look as if they're facing into a howling gale. It's a bit breezy now, but not as windy as they make it look. Not such a great sight. We've got the wood pile ready for the winter, which is lovely, but we've decided to get rid of the gate, which was rotten and awful. Nasty and slimy in the winter. So it's lying there now until I can gather enough energy to get the chainsaw out. Here's one of my favourite weeds, which is purple toad flax. It pops up everywhere, especially in places where I can't get much else to grow. And this little bit of the planter is up against the hedge and was always bald, so I'm letting this go. Not so happy about the dandelion head behind, but I shall snap that off in a sec. When I think of self-seeded flowers, I don't usually think of the ones that are normally bulbs, but this nerine has appeared right in the middle of the feverfew bush. Hello, girls. They always come out to greet me. They think I'm going to feed them every time I appear. To be fair, I usually do. The white one is Lafayette. The black one is Raven Mystique, named for the Marvel character and the colour of her wings. So we've got teenagers in the house. There's still lavender blooming. These haven't been trimmed back. I get a bit leggy, so I'll probably need to do that fairly soon. I can just appreciate the flowers for now. I've picked all the apples now. We dried quite a lot of them, so we've got a really good stock of dried apple for the the winter. It's been really, really tasty. A bit disappointing in that so many of them were battered by the hailstorm we had, so we needed quite a lot of bits cutting out. But they still taste incredible. This is another area of the garden where you can see the direction of the wind. It's blown my trees, which weren't quite stayed well enough when they were small. It's all character. Salad bed is looking pretty awful, but it won't take long to actually get it sorted. There's some parsley seed heads that need chopping off, the annual weeds, actually a little bit of lettuce coming, and then over here the lovely colour of the chard, so that'll give us some green through the winter. Quince tree looks like it's still got Christmas baubles all over it. This is lovely, I can see it from the kitchen. Unfortunately, if you look a bit closer, had the same fate as the apples, in that the hailstorm damaged a lot of the fruit. Hopefully I should be able to cut that out though when I pick them. And then underneath the asters, there's always colour, there's always something at this time of year. And if I come forward, you can see this very pretty flower, not open at the moment unfortunately. This is a shoe fly flower which has really interesting seed heads like little lanterns and sky blue flowers. This is self-seeded as well. The veg bed's an absolute jungle. At the back you can see the Jerusalem artichokes with their yellow sunflower flowers. The white spike is the African kale. I'll be able to take that off, but it's not going to be today. There shouldn't be any cabbage white butterflies around now, and again that's going to give us greens throughout the winter. The artichokes, having produced a nice crop this year, are coming back strong already. That's this spiky plant in the centre there. Little yellow Welsh poppies underneath. There's the flower of a Jerusalem artichoke. Beans and courgettes have gone over as well. I think we've had our last from those, but they've had some really good crops, particularly on the courgettes. And then there's the fennel seed heads now. I can cut those off and dry them and collect the seeds, which are really nice in bread. The brassicas are doing really well this year. They've always been destroyed by the caterpillars in the past, but this year I seem to have successfully managed to keep them covered up. Come a little bit closer. There are sprouts coming there. Kale, various varieties. Hopefully we'll have our own sprouts for Christmas. Here are my sweet Brooksby tomatoes. That's been really prolific. These will just continue to ripen over the next few weeks. If it gets really cold I might bring them in, because tomatoes, as long as you've got a red one in with a bowl full of green, will just carry on ripening. Greenhouse is very overgrown now. I've still got tomatoes ripening. Again, that's been a really good crop this year. I got them in early enough and the watering systems were good enough to keep them going while I've been ill. That's the last of my big beefsteak tomatoes. Burpee's Delicious it's called. Over in the corner, the Fairy Lights chilli. Very, very hot ones these. So they start off red, then they turn orange, then yellow, and then purple, I think. Or do they start purple? I don't know, they're very pretty anyway. Some more Fairy Lights. And if I come right, that's the lemongrass, which I'm going to take in today actually, make it a house plant over the winter. That's the tall grassy spike. And then the pomegranate. Never seen it like this, beautiful buttery yellow. That was grown from a pip. The pyracanthes is now covered in these little red berries and covering this manky old fence really nicely. There's another little splash of colour here with the Lychnis, this vivid pink colour. One of the things I have managed to find the energy for the last few weeks is to clear out this bed and to sow it up with winter salads. So you can just see at the back there's a row of rocket. Yeah, a couple of rows of rockets. There's some coriander, and then the bigger plants at the front with the little holes in the leaves are radishes. The little holes are probably flea beetles. It's all covered in mesh, not so much to keep the beetles out, but to keep the frost off. And as long as it doesn't get frosted, the coriander and the rocket should keep giving us greens, possibly early into next year. my little raised bed here made out of the pallet collar. There's a row of lettuces across the back which I'm going to need to thin considerably, plant out, and another row of rocket through the middle there, all covered up with whatever mesh I can get, because the pigeons will go for this. They've already had a couple of loads that I've sown. And then a small number of my leftover leeks that didn't go in the main veg bed. They were struggling all summer because they got some sort of black aphids. They seem to be recovering now, so I might get something from them. So there's my garden in October. When we went into lockdown back in March, I really thought this would be the year when I would be completely on top of everything, which just shows what I know. I was doing really, really well up until July, and then had this relapse, but I am well on the way to recovery. I've just walked 3 miles, been down to my woodland for the first time since July, so I'm feeling much better. I'm just trying to focus again on the colours, on the beauty in the small details rather than the big jobs, and be thankful that I got so much done earlier in the year, so that it's actually not as bad as I think it is at the moment. I can still come out here and enjoy myself.